Hello everyone and welcome. Make a cup of your favorite drink and get comfortable because this is a wonderful time for news stories from Yellowcat. Send your own stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. Managers of Reddit. What was the worst case of I demand to speak to the manager you've experienced? Part 4. Wasn't a manager for this, but have a story too good to not post here. In my days as a mall cop, I was in the Tim Hortons in the mall to grab a coffee before my shift. I had my earbuds in and wasn't paying much attention until I suddenly saw a lady going insane at the counter person. I pulled my earbuds out and asked the person in front of me what was going on. She shrugged and said the lady just started yelling after the counter girl asked a question. The woman was yelling, "I want the manager, I want the owner, this is BS!" I had my jacket on over my uniform and stepped over the line to get in front of the woman and ask what the problem was in the middle of her yelling at a shift manager. She first told me to F off and stay out of it. I explained who I was and that she could leave if she didn't calm down and explain herself. She then tells me to F off again, at which point I tell her to leave or the police were going to be called. She then tells me the issue. Woman: she asked me if I wanted a hash brown with my bagel sandwich and coffee, and I think that's rude. I don't want that. Me: long pause. What? Her: you heard me? That's rude. I don't want the hash brown. Why is she asking me if I want it? Me: you realize that's part of her job and that literally all you have to do is say no, right? Her: no, it's ignorant, it's harassment, I want to talk to the owner of this Tim Hortons. Me: get out of here, now, you're insane. She then yelled about how she'd never been treated like this in America, this was in Canada, and stormed off. The whole store thanked me for ending the rampage. I used to manage at a restaurant that serves chicken but has a lovable cow as a mascot. We were in a mall, so lots of times we would put someone in the cow suit and let them roam the mall. It reminded people we were there and was fairly easy for this person in the suit. I once had a lady come and complain to me about the person in the cow suit, saying they were being pervy by paying more attention to girls than boys and that I needed to talk to whoever was in it and write them up or some other stupid thing. I thought she was joking because I had only ever gotten compliments about this particular cow, so I just smiled thinking she was joking and was about to compliment him. Nope, she was serious and got madder. The part that she didn't know was that the person in the suit was gay and was probably paying more attention to girls so no one could accuse him of wrongdoing. I didn't tell her that though because it probably would have shattered her little Christian bubble. Looking back on it now, I wish I would have. I work the front desk at a hotel and we only have one person working at a time. I am technically the guy in charge, so I guess that makes me manager. I had a guy walk in and want a room. I told him the price and he was like, okay, and got the room. About 15 minutes later, he comes back down in a fury. He starts yelling at me about how I charged him maximum price for a room and he wanted to know why I did that. I told him that we only charge one price, that you can only get discounts if you have a AAA, AARP, or government/military ID, which he had none of. He pulls out his phone and shows me that Expedia has the same room for $10 less, and he asks me why I didn't charge him that much. I try to tell him that we have a special deal with them, we get advertisement for a business, and they make commission off each booking. He was having none of it. He then complained about the room and the quality of it, which is pretty nice, but we are only a 2-star hotel, so I don't know how much he was expecting. After I told him I was the one in charge at the moment, he wanted to speak to the owner. We called her up and she told him the same thing. He was about ready to explode at this point. He stormed off and tried to pull the same S on the next employee working to see if he could get a discount. He paid a grand total of $68. There's a 3-star hotel down the road that has rooms for $110 a night if you wanted a better hotel. A few below. I worked in customer service for 10 years. In the thousands of calls, it's hard to pick out just one. They kinda blur into levels of stupidity. Was offshore opening a site working through the flood of let me speak to your manager / I want to speak to an American. About 60 to 80% of our calls were being pushed to this site. Chances are you're going to go offshore. Got a handoff from an agent. Customer had been calling and hanging up constantly for like the last 2 hours. Customer asks me if I'm American, to which I said yes, starts explaining his issue, then for some reason asks where I'm located, to which I reply with my physical location, the offshore site. He hangs up and proceeds to do that for the next 3 days. A few calls an hour for the next 3 days, this guy dials, asks for a manager, gets me, then hangs up, over and over and over again. At the end of the 3 days, he gives in, spends a few minutes yelling about how he's going to take his business elsewhere, then updates his address. This dude spent hours raging about something he could do online in seconds, never having to deal with anybody. For as long as I could remember, his account number to do the occasional checks never actually changed companies. I can't even imagine the desire to waste that much of your time. Around the same time, got this military guy wanted to speak to a manager because the offshore employee couldn't possibly understand his issue adequately. There was a language barrier. His issue, he'd maxed the number of withdrawals he could get for free from his less and expected us to do something about it. There was a fee he was balking about, we never saw it. It wasn't charged by us, it went to an intermediary company that all government payments go through. I think they had a limit of like 3 for free, after that there was a fee. Either way, not a fee we charged or could do anything about. Wanted to speak with someone in our company that could make that go away, like we would negotiate for him solely. Referred him back to his CO or his senator, cause yeah, we are your bank, nothing else. Then there was the issue about us verifying info. He wanted to go round and round with this because his cable company would read out the number, his phone number, when asking to verify, whereas we did not. This guy legit wanted to argue about why our verification policies were different. I said, we are 2 different companies. I'm assuming you're bundled, so you may or may not be calling from a location they get a lot more detail on. And lastly, this is really what you want to waste your day on? I get paid to talk to you. You're wasting your time. I worked in a high-end makeup store in Manhattan. We saw all kinds of people with all kinds of complexions and concerns, and you learned pretty fast what words work best to cushion the blow for some of the stuff. For example, texture instead of wrinkles, deeper or richer instead of darker. One thing that's always fun to have to explain is what flashback is. On deeper skin tones, a lot of setting powders will catch the light when flash photos are taken. It'll basically make the person look like they have baby powder on their face, or make them look gray. It's super embarrassing and sort of immediately tells the world you don't know how to use your makeup. Also, all your photos from your event or night out are ruined, so it's pretty sucky all around. Side note, I am blonde and I use cocaine mixed with whiteout as a bronzer. I'm really white. I was talking to a customer who had amazing super deep skin. She was real cool and I was talking to her like a regular human being and she was looking for a setting powder. Her friend was with her who was like honey beige, so pretty light. She was trying to get her to buy a translucent, which translates to white people and white people who are tan. When I asked her how she was going to use it, she had planned to bake makeup baking with it, and that cut out like 80% of the setting powders we had. This was a couple years ago, so we didn't have all that many med deep appropriate setting powders yet. I explained to her what flashback was, and I told her that she could set her makeup with a powder foundation or either of these 2 setting powders. I told her that her friends might really like some other one and tell you to buy it, but with your beautiful skin, you kind of have to use different products. I then said that at some point the makeup industry will realize that there is an entire continent that also needs to set their makeup, but apparently we're not there yet. The customer laughed, she picked up one of the things I was showing her and said thank you and that "you're so kind, I'm so happy I found you today" kind of sing-song tone. Some other customer overheard some of this conversation and told my manager I was telling a customer that we didn't serve people like her. She apparently was yelling at my manager about how racist I was. I was so comfortable in this conversation with my equal that at some point I had said dark skin instead of deeper skin tones. This is apparently a huge insult to some people. It wasn't, however, to the woman living in her deeper skin tone skin looking for a de-setting powder. The woman who complained was a white lady. I was furious, not only because this random woman overheard something that made me look racist. I was mad because I'm white, and color theory and oxidation, a lot of deep shades look great when you first swatch, but turn orange in an hour or so for deeper skin tones, is a lot more complicated, in my opinion, than for white folks. It took me years to understand the difference in tone and shade and how the products oxidize. It took me just as long to learn how to tell a black woman that 80% of what we sell here isn't going to work for you and have her leave happy, confident, and not disappointed. Working in a relatively higher-priced chain restaurant that somehow attracts those in the lesser affordability spectrum, I have my fair share of stories. I'll share two. Lady calls in to cancel her reservation for the evening. We don't have her reservation in our system. Hostess hands me the phone. Lady is very upset that we don't have her reservation that she is looking to cancel. There is zero record of her in our system, and my hosts have not been known to just completely not make a reservation for a guest while they're on the phone with them. Why even answer the call if you're going to do that? Anyways, Lady demands compensation because what if she had come in for her reservation? I politely tell her that we would have simply addressed that situation when it came up, and it would have been no problem finding room for her party of two, had she actually come in to dine with us. Refused her request, asked if she would like to dine with us anyways, completely blew up at me, asked for all the numbers of the higher-ups, never heard a word about it. Number 2. Didn't happen to me, but my fellow manager, who is actually my GM now. All of this is from what I saw in the security footage and first-hand accounts. Table of 3, woman, man, and teenaged boy that are known to be constant complainers, didn't like their food. After having a few go-around with them about their experience, manager gets their food made completely correct to their ridiculous specifications. He brings the food to the table and explains that they will be eating for free today, but to please never come back to our restaurant because we obviously can't operate to their standards. Lady loses her S and throws a pint glass at the manager's face, and the teenage son jumps on the manager's back. Manager is about 280 pounds, not a small man. A few seconds later, the other dude at the table stands up but instantly gets detained with a giant bear hug by a guest sitting at the bar. Short scuffle between the lady, son, manager, staff, and guests ensue. The dude that got bear hugged somehow talked his way out from his captor, and rather than go help his wife/girlfriend/baby mama who is swinging her way out of the building, or his son/brother/girlfriend's kid who is being held on the ground in a chokehold by a very large and angry man, this guy, lol, we still laugh about it, this guy instead walks back to his table and continues to shovel his GD meal into his face like nothing even happened. If you want to watch the part 3, click the link here. Thank you for watching. Guys, thank you for all the supporting ones. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet. See you next time.